Right, so we're diving into chapters 7 and 8 of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Okay.
We've got a good stack of notes and study guides here. And our mission this time, right, is to create kind of like a cheat sheet
Yes.
for these chapters.
Like a road map.
Yeah, like a roadmap, how to unpack them, bring them to life in your classroom,
Exactly.
and really kind of, inspire some discussion and engagement with your students.
Yeah.
So we are starting off in October at Hogwarts. It's gloomy.
Yeah.
It's raining, right? Everyone's kind of sniffling. And poor Madame Pomfrey
Oh, yeah.
is practically swimming in pepper-up potion.
I love that detail about the pepper up potion, the instant relief. But,
Yeah.
you're stuck with smoking ears for hours afterwards.
It's a great little detail.
Yeah.
And it's those little details that make the world building so rich. And speaking of details,
Yes.
amidst all of this rain, Quidditch practice is still happening. And the Slytherin team,
Of course.
of course, right,
Mm.
sporting their shiny new Nimbus 2001s.
Oh, those broomsticks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great jumping off point, I think, to talk about
Yeah.
privilege and inequality. Why does Slytherin always have the best equipment? What does it say
Yeah.
about the role of wealth and status in the wizarding world?
It's almost like a parallel to the real world in a way, right? Like
Birds
how
of truth.
access to certain resources can affect opportunities.
Mm.
Okay, now remember, nearly headless Nick.
Oh, yeah.
He's feeling pretty down in the dumps because he got rejected, right? The headless hunt.
Oh, poor Nick. This is such a good opportunity, though, to talk about social acceptance and belonging, even in a world of ghosts, like his desperate desire to join, even though he's not technically headless enough.
Not quite.
Yeah, it speaks volumes about our need for acceptance.
It's so true.
Yeah.
You can bet your students have felt that way at some point, like wanting to be part of a group, feeling left out,
Totally.
not quite fitting in.
Mm-hmm. It's a universal experience. And Nick's little predicament provides a safe and engaging way
Yeah.
to explore those feelings with your students.
Yeah. Now let's shift gears to
Okay.
Argus Filch, the ever-grumpy caretaker,
Mm,
who seems
yeah.
to loathe any
Oh.
hint of student mischief.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now,
He's a fascinating character. I mean, his extreme reactions, right?
Yeah.
To even like minor rule breaking.
Yeah.
You can use that as a springboard for discussions about power dynamics
Yeah.
and authority. Why is he so obsessed with rules and punishment?
Well, remember that scene where Harry stumbles into Filch's office
Oh, yes.
and finds a quick spell correspondence course?
That detail is crucial because it suggests that he might be a squib, someone
yeah.
born to magical parents but lacking any magical ability himself.
Yeah,
And it adds a whole new dimension to his character.
it does.
It explains his resentment toward the students,
Right.
his longing for stricter discipline.
Totally. It's almost like he's overcompensating, right? For
Yeah.
feeling inadequate in a world saturated with magic
Totally.
that he can't participate in.
Yeah.
You could even ask your students, how do you think Filch feels being surrounded by magic,
Yeah.
yet unable to participate fully? It's a way to explore empathy and help them understand how someone's background
Yes.
can shape their behavior.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so we've got rain, broomsticks,
Right.
a mopey ghost, a grumpy caretaker, and then
Yeah.
we get a death day party.
Yes. Nearly Headless Nick's 500th death day party, to be exact.
500 years.
It's brilliant. Like the juxtaposition, right, to the Halloween feast happening up in the Great Hall,
Yeah,
while the living students are celebrating, life in abundance.
right.
The ghosts are down there commemorating death with rotting food and mournful music.
It's such a stark contrast, and I think it can lead to some really interesting discussions,
Definitely.
cultural perceptions of death.
Mm-hmm.
How different cultures view it and celebrate it and commemorate it.
And the symbolism, right? Like
Yeah.
the dungeon setting,
Yeah.
the black candles with blue flames, the ghostly music. It all adds to this eerie atmosphere
It does.
and emphasizes the separation between the worlds of the living and the dead.
And speaking of separation, poor Nick is even more bummed out when the headless hunt arrives.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They barge in with their headless riders and ghostly horses, ready for a
Headless Hunt hockey.
round of headless hunt hockey.
The visual imagery here is fantastic.
It is.
Like, it's comical and macabre at the same time.
Yeah.
And it just further underscores, Nick's exclusion and his
Yeah.
longing to be part of that exclusive club.
I can almost picture, like, students giggling at the thought of this headless hockey game, and then
Yes.
having like a really thoughtful discussion about social hierarchies
Totally.
and the pain of not belonging.
Absolutely. So, as you're discussing these themes,
Yeah.
make sure to connect them back to your students' lives.
Yes.
Ask them, have you ever felt like Nick wanting to be part of something you
Right.
weren't quite accepted into?
Right.
Have you ever felt like Filch, inadequate or
Yeah.
out of place?
Yes.
Those questions can lead to really powerful reflections
Yeah.
and help your students connect with the characters on a deeper level.
Yeah. Now things take a darker turn
Okay.
when Harry, Ron, and Hermione are leaving the party.
Oh, here we go.
As they're heading back to Gryffindor Tower,
Right.
Harry hears that chilling voice again,
Ah.
the one he heard in Lockhart's office. This whisper, almost a hiss, and it's filled with malice.
Yeah.
And it's
It adds a whole new layer of suspense and mystery
Yeah.
to the story. And remember, Harry's the only one who can hear it, right?
right.
Which sets him apart from his friends and
Yeah.
kind of foreshadows his connection to Voldemort.
It's true. You could ask your students,
Yeah.
why do you think Harry's the only one who can hear the voice?
Yes.
What does it say about his unique role in the story?
Excellent point. It's a great way to get them thinking about Harry's destiny and the challenges that he's going to face. Now as they follow the voice,
Yeah.
Harry, Ron, and Hermione stumble upon a truly chilling scene.
A message scrawled on the wall in what looks like blood. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware.
Right.
And beneath it, hanging petrified, is Mrs. Norris, Filch's cat.
This is a turning point in the story. The Chamber of Secrets, this thing shrouded in myth and legend,
Yeah.
has become a terrifying reality. And Mrs. Norris's petrification serves as this stark warning,
Yeah.
a symbol of the danger that's lurking within Hogwarts.
Now, this is where you can really kind of delve into the themes of prejudice
Yes.
and discrimination, because the message on the wall specifically targets enemies of the air,
Right.
suggesting that somebody is using Salazar Slytherin's ideology of blood purity to justify their actions. It's
a heavy topic.
It is, but it's one that needs to be addressed. You can ask your students, what does the term enemies of the air even mean?
Who might be considered an enemy? Why is this message so threatening?
And don't forget Draco Malfoy's chilling reaction to the scene. His smirk and the words, enemies of the air, beware. You'll be next, mudbloods.
It's just dripping with prejudice. He uses that derogatory term mudbloods to refer to, witches and wizards born to non-magical parents,
Right?
echoing that very ideology that seems to be driving the opening of the chamber.
It's a great opportunity to discuss the power of language
Absolutely.
and the harmful impact of prejudice.
Yeah.
Ask your students, how does Malfoy's language contribute to the atmosphere of fear and division? Why is it important to challenge prejudice and discrimination?
Now, stepping back from the immediate drama for a second,
Okay.
these chapters are also rich in opportunities to explore the different types of magic in the
Yes.
Harry Potter universe.
Right. You've got everything from simple charms and jinxes to complex potions and dark curses, ghosts with varying degrees of power, a mischievous poltergeist, and even a hidden chamber
Yeah.
built on ancient magic.
Like a smorgasbord
It is a
of
smorgasbord.
magical concepts.
Yes.
You can use this, to create engaging lessons, activities, have your students categorize the different types of magic, discuss their purposes and effects. You can
Yeah.
even have them create presentations, posters, showcasing their findings.
And even debate, the ethics of certain magical practices.
Totally.
Like, is it right for Fred and George to use magic to prank their classmates?
Right.
Where's the line between harmless fun
Exactly.
and potentially dangerous magic?
These are questions that can really get your students thinking critically about this world that they're exploring.
And don't underestimate the power of visual aids. Encourage your students to draw
Yeah.
or paint their interpretations of the
Yes.
different magical creatures.
Absolutely.
Have them create diagrams or timelines to track, the development of events.
It's all about bringing the magic to life and making it relatable to their own experiences.
Speaking of relatable experiences, let's go back to Filch for a moment.
Oh, Filch. What insights can we glean from his character?
Well, his reaction to Mrs. Norris's petrification is quite telling.
Yeah.
He's distraught, heartbroken even.
Yeah.
It's a side of Filch we haven't really seen before.
Right.
And it reveals a vulnerability beneath his gruff exterior.
That's a really important point because it shows that Filch, despite his harsh demeanor, his obsession with rules, is capable of deep affection.
Yeah.
And it challenges our initial perceptions of him and reminds us that
Yeah.
even seemingly unlikable characters have layers, they have complexities.
It's a great lesson in empathy and understanding, and it can open up a conversation about how we judge others
Yeah,
based on appearances or first impressions.
exactly. Now, before we move on, there's one more element in these chapters that deserves attention. It's the role of secrecy and the power of hidden knowledge.
The Chamber of Secrets itself is a symbol of that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like hidden knowledge, a secret passed down through generations.
Right.
And the fact that it's been opened raises all sorts of questions about who knows
And
what's keeping secrets and why.
You could even have your students create a web of secrets chart where they map out the different characters and what they know or suspect
Oh, that's a great idea.
about the chamber.
Yeah.
It encourages them to, analyze the characters' motivations, track the flow of information, even make predictions about what might happen next.
And as you guide them through these activities,
Yes.
remind them that the power of storytelling lies in its ability to connect with our deepest emotions and experiences.
Absolutely.
Right. Encourage them to look for those connections, to find those universal truths
Yeah.
that resonate within these fantastical tales.
Yes.
Because ultimately that's what makes these stories so enduring.
Exactly.
They offer a window into ourselves,
Right.
our fears, our hopes, and our capacity for both good and evil.
Beautifully said. And with that, let's transition to the historical context surrounding these chapters.
Okay.
There are some fascinating parallels to real-world events and ideologies that can deepen our understanding of the story. The concept of blood purity,
Right.
espoused by Salazar Slytherin, has chilling echoes in real-world history. You can draw parallels to discriminatory beliefs based on lineage or ancestry that have fueled conflict and persecution throughout human history.
It's a sensitive topic,
It is.
but an important one to address.
Yes, absolutely. You can ask your students to research, historical examples of prejudice and discrimination based on ancestry and discuss how those events connect to the themes presented in the Chamber of Secrets storyline.
It's like holding up a mirror to society in a way.
Yes. Absolutely.
Even in this magical world, these issues are present, and it's
still,
they're still there.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to kind of confront them and learn from the past.
Now, beyond the historical context, these chapters also offer a chance to delve into the psychology of the character.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the fear that grips Hogwarts after the attack on Mrs. Norris.
Yes.
You can practically feel the tension, the suspicion in the air. Everyone's a potential suspect. No one feels safe.
Yeah. It's a great opportunity to talk about how fear can, manipulate people,
Right.
and sow division within a community.
It's a real-world lesson, too, though, isn't it? You see how fear and misinformation can be exploited to create conflict and undermine trust.
Exactly. And speaking of trust, the relationship between Harry and Ron faces a test in these chapters.
Yes, it does.
Ron, influenced by, all the prejudice circulating within the school, starts to question Harry's involvement in the attacks.
It's a moment of tension that reveals the fragility of friendship, right? And the destructive power of doubt.
Absolutely.
You could ask your students, why does Ron start to doubt Harry? How does this affect their friendship? What does it teach us about the importance of trust and loyalty?
It's a valuable lesson in communication and understanding, how even close friends can be influenced by, these external pressures and biases.
And it's a reminder that building strong relationships requires open communication, empathy, and a willingness to challenge our own assumptions. Now, as we wrap up our deep dive into these chapters, I want to circle back to this idea of using these stories to inspire, creativity and imagination in your classrooms.
It's essential.
Encourage your students to go beyond the written word and explore the story through different mediums.
Totally.
Have them write scripts, act out scenes, compose songs or poems based on the characters, create artwork, even design their own magical creatures.
The possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
And by tapping into their creativity, you'll not only be enhancing their understanding of the story, but fostering their critical thinking, their problem solving, their communication skills.
It's all about making those connections, finding those sparks of inspiration, and empowering your students to become active participants in the world of Harry Potter.
Beautifully said. And to our listeners, remember, this deep dive is just the beginning. take these insights, these ideas,
Yes.
make them your own.
Yeah.
Happy teaching.
Happy teaching.
No. You could ask your students, why do you think only Harry can hear that voice?
Right.
Like, what does that say about his unique role in the story?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's a great way to, like, get them thinking about his destiny and all the challenges he's going to face.
Yeah.
So as they're following this voice, right,
Mm-hmm.
Harry, Ron, and Hermione, they stumble upon this, like, truly chilling scene.
Yeah. A message scrawled on the wall
Yeah.
in what looks like blood. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened.
Right.
Enemies of the air, beware. And beneath it,
Oh, God.
hanging petrified, is Mrs. Norris, Filch's cat.
I mean, that's heady stuff.
Yeah.
The Chamber of Secrets, this legendary thing, right? It's shrouded in myth and legend has become like this terrifying reality. And Mrs. Norris's petrification, it's like a warning.
Yeah, it's a symbol, right?
Yeah, a symbol of the danger lurking within Hogwarts.
This is where you can really dive into those themes of prejudice and discrimination.
Yes.
Because that message on the wall specifically targets enemies of the air.
Right?
It suggests that someone is using Salazar Slytherin's ideology of blood purity, right,
Yeah.
to justify their actions.
Yeah, heavy stuff.
It is.
But it needs to be addressed.
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
you could ask your students, what does that term enemies of the air even mean? Who might be considered an enemy? Why is that message so threatening?
And we can't forget Draco Malfoy's reaction to this whole scene.
Ugh. Malfoy.
That smirk and the words, enemies of the air, beware. Oh, you'll be next, mudbloods.
Oh, it's awful.
I
It's
don't
so
mind.
full of prejudice.
It is.
He uses that derogatory term mudbloods to refer to witches and wizards born to, non-magical parents.
Right.
And it just echoes that ideology that seems to be driving, like, the whole opening of the chamber.
It's such a good opportunity to discuss, like, the power of language.
Yes.
And the impact,
Yeah.
the harmful impact of prejudice and discrimination.
Absolutely.
Like, ask your students, how does Malfoy's language contribute to the atmosphere of fear and division?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it important to challenge prejudice and discrimination?
Stepping back from the drama for a second,
Go.
these chapters are, like, full of opportunities to explore all the different types of magic in
Yeah.
the Harry Potter universe. You
Yeah.
got charms and jinxes and potions and dark curses.
Yeah, you got ghosts with different levels of power, a mischievous poltergeist, and even, like, a hidden chamber built on ancient magic.
Yeah, it's amazing, really.
It is.
He's like a smorgasbord.
Yeah, it really is.
Of magical concepts. You could, use this to make, like, really engaging lessons and activities for your students.
For sure. Have them, like, categorize the different types of magic,
Right.
discuss their purposes and effects,
Right.
Even have them create presentations or posters,
Oh.
showcasing their findings.
That would be cool.
Yeah. And even debate
Yes.
the ethics of certain magical practices. Like, is it okay for Fred and George to use magic to prank their classmates?
Yeah.
Where's that line between harmless fun
Right.
and really dangerous magic?
It's an important question.
Yeah.
And I think those are the kind of questions that can spark a really good discussion in your classroom
Yeah.
and get those students thinking critically about this world that they're exploring. And, don't forget about the power of visual aids, too.
Absolutely. Like, encourage your students to
Yeah.
draw, paint their interpretations
Oh, yeah.
of these different magical creatures, the spells,
Mhm.
have them create diagrams and timelines to track the development of events.
Absolutely. It's all about bringing that magic to life
Yeah.
and making it, relatable to their own experiences.
Now, speaking of relatable experiences, let's go back to Filch for a moment.
Okay, Filch.
Yeah.
What kind of insights can we get from him?
Well, his reaction to Mrs. Norris being petrified
Yeah.
is really telling.
Yeah,
He's distraught. He's heartbroken. Even it's a side of Filch that we haven't really seen before.
it's true. It's true.
And it reveals, like, a vulnerability beneath his gruff exterior.
Right. I mean, it's important because it shows
Yeah.
that he's capable of affection.
Yeah.
Despite that harsh demeanor and his obsession with rules, he can really care about something. And it challenges our initial perceptions of him
Yeah.
and reminds us that even unlikable characters have, they have layers and complexities.
It's a great lesson in empathy and understanding,
Oh,
and it opens up that conversation about how we judge others
Right.
based on appearances or first impressions.
absolutely. Now, before we move on, one more thing about these chapters
Oh,
that,
yeah.
that deserves some attention. the role of secrecy
Oh, yeah.
and the power of hidden knowledge.
The Chamber of Secrets itself is like the ultimate symbol of that.
Oh, yeah. Like hidden knowledge, a secret passed down through
Right.
generations.
Right.
And now it's open, and it raises so many questions like, who knows
Certainly.
what? Who's keeping secrets?
Why are they keeping secrets?
You could even have your students make a like web of secrets chart
That's cool.
where they map out all the different characters
Right.
and what they know or what they suspect
Yeah.
about the chamber.
Oh, I like that. That's
Yeah.
an idea.
Yeah. It, encourages them to analyze the characters' motivations, to track the flow of information, to even make predictions
Yeah.
about what's going to happen next.
As you're guiding them through these activities,
Yeah.
remind them about the power of storytelling,
Right.
and its ability to connect with our deepest emotions and experiences.
Absolutely. Like encourage them to look for those connections, to find the universal truths that are hidden within these fantastical tales. That's what makes these stories so enduring.
Right. They give us a window into ourselves,
Exactly.
our fears, our hopes, our capacity for both good and evil.
Yeah. Beautifully said. And with that, let's transition to the historical context around these chapters. There's some interesting parallels to real-world events and ideologies that can really deepen our understanding of this story. The concept of blood purity espoused by Salazar Slytherin that has some chilling echoes in real-world history. You can draw parallels to, discriminatory beliefs based on lineage and ancestry
Right.
that have fueled conflict and persecution throughout human history.
It's a sensitive topic.
It is.
It's a very important one to address.
Yes, absolutely. And you can even ask your students to research historical examples of prejudice and discrimination based on ancestry.
Right.
And then discuss how those events connect
Yeah.
to the themes presented in this Chamber of Secrets storyline.
It's like holding up a mirror to society, right?
Yeah.
Even in this magical world, these issues,
They're still there.
they're still there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's up to us to confront them
And learn from the past.
and learn from the past.
Yeah. Now, beyond the historical context,
Okay.
these chapters give us a chance to dive into the psychology.
Oh, absolutely. The characters.
Yeah.
Think about the fear that grips Hogwarts
Yeah.
after the attack on Mrs. Norris. Like, you could almost feel that tension,
Yes.
the suspicion.
Yeah.
Everyone's a potential suspect.
Everyone's looking over their shoulder.
Yeah, no one feels safe.
Right. It's a good time to talk about how fear can manipulate people, right?
Right.
And so division.
It can divide.
Yeah, within a community.
You could ask your students, how does fear influence the characters' actions, their decisions?
Yeah.
How can fear be used to control others?
It's a real-world lesson, too.
It really is. We've seen it
Yeah, absolutely.
time and time again, how fear and misinformation are used to create conflict
Absolutely.
and to undermine trust.
Speaking of trust, the relationship between Harry and Ron really faces a test here.
Yes, yes.
Ron, he's influenced by all that prejudice swirling around, right?
Yeah.
And he actually starts to question Harry's involvement in the attacks. He doubts him.
Oh, it's such a tense moment.
It is.
It shows how fragile friendship can be.
Yeah,
The destructive power of doubt.
totally.
You could ask your students, why does Ron start to doubt Harry?
Mm-hmm.
How does that affect their friendship? What does it teach us about trust and loyalty?
It's a good question. It's a valuable lesson about communication, about understanding how even close friends can be influenced by external pressures and biases.
It's a good reminder that to build strong relationships, we need open communication,
Yeah.
empathy, and a willingness to challenge our own assumptions. Now, as we're wrapping up our deep dives into these chapters,
Yeah.
I want to come back to this idea of using these stories to inspire creativity
Yeah.
and imagination
It's essential.
in your classrooms.
Yeah.
Encourage those students to, go beyond just the written word
Right.
and explore the story through different mediums.
Absolutely.
Have them write scripts, act out scenes, have them compose songs or poems based on the characters and themes.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, create artwork, even design their own
Yes.
magical creatures.
I love it. The possibilities are just like endless.
They are.
And by tapping into their creativity, you're not only enhancing their understanding of the story, but also fostering, critical thinking, problem solving, communication skills.
It's all about making those connections.
It is.
Finding those sparks of inspiration.
Yeah.
And really empowering your students to become active participants in the world of Harry Potter.
I love that. Beautifully said. And to our listeners, remember, This deep dive, it's just the beginning. Take these insights,
Yeah.
these ideas, make them your own.
Happy teaching.
Happy teaching. Now, beyond the historical context, these chapters also offer a chance to kind of dig into the psychology of the characters.
Well, absolutely. Think about, like, the fear that grips Hogwarts after the attack on Mrs. Norris.
Yeah.
You can almost feel the tension, the suspicion in the air.
Yeah, everyone's looking over their shoulder, right?
Yeah. Everyone's a suspect.
Yeah.
No one feels safe.
No one knows who to trust. It's a great opportunity to talk about how fear can manipulate people
Right.
and really sow division
Yeah.
in a community.
You could ask your students.
Yeah.
How does fear influence the character's actions and decisions? How can fear be used to control others?
It's a good question. It's a real world lesson too, isn't it?
It is. Like,
We've seen it.
time and time again.
Yeah, how fear and misinformation can be used to create conflict and undermine trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of trust, the relationship between Harry and Ron is really tested here.
It is.
You know, Ron is so influenced by all that prejudice that's going around,
Right.
and he actually starts to question Harry's involvement in the attacks.
Yeah.
He doubts him.
It's such a tense moment.
It is.
It reveals how fragile friendship can be.
Yeah.
The destructive power of doubt.
Totally.
You could ask your students, why does Ron start to doubt Harry? How does this affect their friendship? What does it teach us about the importance of trust and loyalty?
It's a great question. You know, it's a valuable lesson about communication and understanding how even close friends can be influenced by these external pressures and biases.
It's a good reminder that building strong relationships requires open communication,
Yes.
empathy,
Yeah.
and a willingness to challenge our own assumptions.
Yeah.
Now, as we wrap up our deep dive into these chapters,
Yeah.
I want to circle back to that idea of using these stories to inspire, creativity
This is key.
and imagination in your classrooms.
It's essential.
Encourage your students to go beyond the written word
Right.
and explore the story through different mediums.
Absolutely.
Have them write scripts, act out scenes, compose songs or poems based on the characters and themes.
Oh, that would be so fun.
Yeah. Create artwork, even design their own
Yes.
magical creatures.
The possibilities are endless. And by tapping into their creativity, you're not only enhancing their understanding of the story,
Yeah.
but also fostering, critical thinking, problem solving, communication skills.
Yeah.
It's all about making those connections, finding those sparks of inspiration, and really empowering your students to become active participants in the world of Harry Potter.
Beautifully said. And to our listeners, remember, this deep dive is just the beginning. Take these insights, these ideas.
Make them your own.
Yeah.
Happy teaching.
Happy teaching.